Hi, everyone. Welcome to Leaflet Module 2, where we will be covering layer control using Leaflet. So um, essentially, what we're going to do here is we're going to build on a lot of the principles that we used in Leaflet Module 1. However, now we're going to um, set up layers and build layers on top of each other. So then that can allow the user to have interactivity with the leaflet plot to select which layers they're looking at. And as a little preview of where we're going, I'll show you what the output of this image is. So what we're going to be doing in this activity is we're going to be recreating this map essentially. And what we're going to do is filter out data to create new data frames and spatial data frames containing data on UCLA, UCSF, Cedars-Sinai, Kaiser Permanente, UCSD, and Stanford, which are just some of the big highly rated healthcare institutions in California. And we're going to create layers out of these. So as you can see, I can go and deselect these points from the map, and then I can populate them again. So now we only have UCLA on the map. Now we only have Kaiser, etc. So this is where we're going. And now let's walk through how we're going to get there. So first things first, we're going to load in these libraries. It's all the same ones we used in the previous module. And for this activity, as I already said, we're going to be mapping prominent hospital systems in California using Leaflet. And as done in module 1, we're going to read in the same data set. This time, since we're only mapping hospitals in California, we'll just filter the data set for California right away. And we're also going to use this clean names function from the janitor package just to tidy up the column names. So we're going to run that. Okay. And as you can see, we have 642 observations here instead of like the 7,000 some in the other data set, which is pretty accurate since we're only mapping California rather than the whole country. And really quickly here, we're going to move right into creating these health network specific data frames. And many of you will already know how to do this. However, we're just going to connect all the pieces here. So what we're going to do basically is we need to create a data frame for each hospital network. And one way of doing that is to use the string detect function, which is part of the string R package in Tidyverse, to filter the hospital name column and just extract the whichever columns match these kind of key phrases, keywords from the data. So what we're going to do is we're going to wrap that into a filter, and we're going to create a data frame that's specific to each one of these hospital groups. So we're going to run that. And as you'll see now, we have 6 data frames that have been created. And we can click in here and see that all of these all of these hospitals are now associated with UCLA, for instance. So yeah, that's an efficient way of getting at each kind of hospital network. We can also click on Kaiser, and there you go. These are all of the Kaiser associated hospitals in California. So now that we've done that, we will move right into creating the spatial point data frames specific for each health network. So similarly from the intro to leaflet module, we're going to use basically the exact same code here. I've just omitted owner because we're not really going to be using that for the purposes of this module. Otherwise, all of these are the same. So basically, one way of doing this is to subset specifically from the UCLA data frames and then create the spatial points data frame, and then just copy and paste this like 6 different times and just rename all of these data frames and spatial data frame outputs to the appropriate health network name. So it follows the same exact format as we did in leaflet module 1. Just as a refresher here, we are indexing here. So that's what's going on with this function. So the reason we have one pair of brackets here is because we're accessing a data frame and we're accessing the df underscore UCLA data frame, and we are just subsetting these columns. So we want longitude and latitude for the coordinates, and then we want the name column, the address column, beds column, telephone column for the data information for the spatial points data frame. And another reminder, everything to the right of this comma here is subsetting columns, and everything to the left, if you wanted to do that, you can also subset rows. So this code is all the same. The only things that are different are the data frames and the spatial data frame outputs. So we're going to run this too. And there we go. We have our 6 spatial points data frames. And now we can use these to set up layers for the map. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a map. We're going to use the leaflet function to specify that we are now using leaflet, kind of like ggplot in the previous module. And I'm going to use the same CartoDB positron theme, so that as I used previously. And then I am now going to create the layers. So as I've been doing with all of these data frames and spatial points data frames, I'm going to repeat the code. So I'm going to start with UCLA, and I am going to add circle markers, and I'm going to pass the SPDF UCLA into the data. And then I'm going to use all these same kind of preset features that we used in the previous module. And then here, I'm going to specify the data frame, spatial points data frame, and the row or the column that I will be using to store the information for the pop-ups. And this is a very important step here. I am going to specify that this group is UCLA. This group is UCLA. So this is how R will know that that this is a separate group from this. So similarly, kind of what I did is I copied and pasted this over here, and I just replaced all of the UCLA spatial data frames with UCSF spatial data frames. And I also created this group right here. I added that, which we previously didn't have in the previous modules. And then I just repeated that for every single health group. So after adding all of those layers, the last layer that I'm adding is the legend to the map, just to signify what the colors mean in the markers. And now I'm going to run this. So I'm going to demonstrate what that looks like up here using the HTML file that I highly recommend you guys use as well. So right here, we set up the map layers, and really, I didn't even output this because you're not gonna see anything different. It's all gonna show up as one layer, because we haven't taken that extra step to now say, hey, now these are the layers, which we're gonna do in this next code chunk. So now moving on to part 5, we're actually going to implement the layer control. And so I created the map using the previous code chunk, kind of all the features, layers, they're all there. And now we're just going to add this layer control function, and we're going to pass these groups through this overlay groups function in this vector. So we're passing UCLA, UCSF, Cedars-Sinai, Kaiser Permanente, UCSD, and Stanford through here. Exactly how we spelt these groups right here. So you want to follow the exact same nomenclature for that. And I also added this options argument here. So this allows you basically to collapse the layer control. And in contrast, the code from here to here is exactly the same, other than right here where I said collapsed equals false. And I will show you exactly the contrast there. So now that we've implemented this, we can see that right here, there's this drop down menu. So it doesn't take up extra space on the map, and you can hover over it and then select out the hospitals that you want to keep. So I think that's pretty neat. I would recommend to use this code here and to make this collapsible, just so it doesn't interrupt with the map. Because as right here, it's pretty convenient that California is over here, and we don't really have any points over here. However, on a bigger map, if you have points kind of everywhere, it's better to kind of have this tucked away. And here is the layer control with the default preset when collapsed equals false, where this is just out and about the whole time. And yeah, so there you have it. That's how you use layer control and give your user the opportunity to select what they want visualized on their map. And I wanted to wrap up here just by kind of highlighting the fact that you may have noticed that this code has been super duper repetitive. Like, we did everything 6 times. And the leaflet module 3, which is automation, will cover how you can use automation to optimize your code. So you only have to do everything once, and we'll just leverage functions and loops, and a few cool data structures to automate everything for us. And the reason we kind of wanted to show you that is because in practice, you often, when you create a map, like I did for my practicum, and my PI wanted me to change some features, I would have to go back and edit all the layers, every single layer, and it would take a long time to update the map to their liking. So by automating it, you will only have to change something once, and then the rest of the map will just naturally adopt that modification. So thank you for watching this, and we hope to see you at the live session where we will be covering Leaflet Module 3. Thank you.